Good morning, everyone. Oh, I'm so happy to be able to share this September morning with you guys. I almost said Saturday, but it's not Saturday. It's a Thursday. I'm so glad that you guys are here. And for our topic that we get to talk about today, I have been thinking about this topic for a very long time. And I've been thinking about you guys in this topic for the last few days. And I prepared some slides here. I prepared some new things to share with you that some of you have heard from me before, you might not have heard these things before. And those of you who haven't heard from me before, you definitely haven't heard these things before. So I'm excited that we get to share them. And it all started on a morning in Rexburg, Idaho. And it was in the year 1987. So a long time ago, a way long time ago. And on this morning, there was this lady, this mom who was driving her oldest son to college. And she'd never dropped her son off at college before. This is her oldest son. And she's driving from Washington. They'd driven the 12 hours to Rexburg, Idaho. And here they are in Rexburg, Idaho, and she's pulling into her son's dorm where she's going to drop her son off. And so she's looking for these last teaching moments. What are these last teaching moments that she can teach her son before she leaves him for the world, right? Because he's 18 years old, he's graduated from high school, it's time to start this college. And she's like, all right, what are the last things that I need to teach my child? Because whether you're a parent or not, when you have influence on a younger person, you want to give them the best chance to launch themselves forward. So as they're pulling into this college apartment complex, she's looking around, and in her mind, it's like, what does my son need to know? And she sees this girl in the parking lot, and she's like, she makes a judgment of this girl. She looks at this girl, and she looks how she's dressed, and she looks how she's walking, and she's like, that girl's probably about my son's age, and I don't really approve of her. So she turns to her son, and she points at this girl, and she goes, all right, remember, see that girl right there? That's the kind of girl right there you don't want to hang around with. And so she's giving her last wisdom, and they pull into their parking space, and they're wondering where their apartment is. And this same girl walks up to the car and says, hey, do you need some help finding your apartment? I can help you find it if you want. And so now this mom is like, oh, are you kidding? That's the kind of girl right there I don't want my son to hang around with. And here she is right here. Do I dare leave my son here at college? Well, the reason I would know this story is because I was the girl in that parking lot. And the boy in that passenger seat is my now husband. So here we had two strangers that had never met each other, and a well-meaning mom who pointed at this boy there, who cared about her son, and pointed at this girl and is like, that's the one right there. Don't hang around with her. And yet here we are, how many years later? 40 years later? No, that's not right. 30 something years later. And now I've been married to that man for 30 years. So you just don't know where your teaching moments are going to come. And you just don't know as a parent where things are going to not go exactly as you planned. Can you imagine? So that is how my husband and I met. Is we met on the morning that he pulled into his apartment complex at BYU, Idaho, and his mom tried to warn him away from me, and she'd never even met me. She didn't know anything about me, but she'd made a judgment about me. And so years later, when my husband and I started dating, because we didn't start dating until 4 years later, that became kind of the joke, is that, oh, Mom, guess what? I'm taking that girl out that you warned me against when I first went to college. Well, as I was thinking about this topic today, about talking about us as parents, or us as people who have influence over others, that was the story that popped into my head, because I'm like, how do we become parents? I mean, I know how we become parents, but I mean, how do we become parents? How do we meet that person that helps us, that we decide to connect with and marry and become a parent? How do we even decide that? And for me and my husband, it was kind of funny that we had this way of meeting. And so that day I was really nice to my now husband and his mom, but I left and I didn't see them the rest of the day. Well, the next day I was at the apartment complex again, because my boyfriend lived at this apartment complex, and we were going to go to the lake. We were going to go to the lake and have a day at the lake. And so me and my boyfriend and his roommates were all piling into a car, and I saw my husband Clint up there on the railing, and I knew that he had just moved in and he didn't know anybody. And so and his mom, he was actually waving goodbye to his mom, who was just leaving him there at college. And I thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to just leave him there by himself? I'm like, we don't really have much more room in this car, because there was me and 4 other guys crammed into this car. And I leaned out the window and I said, hey, if you want to like sardine in the car, you can come to the lake with us, because I wanted to be nice, right? And so he looks at his mom and goes, my mom says, don't hang around with this girl. And he looks down at the car and he's like, looks at his mom, looks at the car, and he has a choice to make, right? So what did he choose? He got in the car. He got in the car and he went to the lake with us. And so if you ask my husband how we met and you ask me how we met, they're not the same story. He'll tell you that I tried to kill him on the first day that we met. And I'll tell you that I was trying to be nice. So we can have different perspectives of the same situation. So I want you to remember that, because it's going to come up in what we're talking about today. We can have different perspectives of the same situation. So why did he say I tried to kill him? Well, out at the lake, let's just say that I put myself through college as a lifeguard and a swim teacher. So I was a pretty strong swimmer. And out at the lake, there was this island out in the middle of the lake. And when we were all there at the lake, I said, hey, let's all swim out to the island. And my husband was not a very strong swimmer. And so I jumped in the water and my boyfriend jumped in the water, and we're swimming out to this island and a couple of other guys. And my husband's like, well, I want to go too. And so he jumps in the water, and halfway across, my lifeguard senses are noticing he's not swimming so good. So he's swimming out to the island, and the other guys have arrived at the island, and we've been on the island, and there's nothing to do on the island. And so they're like, all right, let's jump back in and swim back over to this other part of the lake. And I'm watching my husband doing the doggy paddle, trying to get to the island. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just wait here and make sure he gets to the island. So his story is that I tried to kill him. My story is that I was making sure he was okay. So we can have different perspectives for the same life events. We can have different perspectives. And it's important for us to remember that when we're thinking about the influence that we have on our children, because Today, we're talking about, let me share my screen with you. We're talking about who really is teaching our kids, who really has the biggest influence on your family members. Who is it? So this isn't even really just the kids. It's who has the biggest influence on your family members, your spouse, your family of origin, your siblings, your parents, your kids, the people around you. And so we want to look at this, and my intention is to give you skills to be able to upgrade the influences that are happening on your children. Just like my now mother-in-law was trying to upgrade the influences that were on her son by warning her son against me, we want to be able to upgrade the influences that are happening to our children and to our family. So let me ask you, so let's start with this question. And I want everybody to find their chat box, because in the chat box is where you can answer questions that I asked today. And so there's two ways that we get to interact. One is in the chat box. You can, or the comment box, either way, you can make a comment or you can type in the chat box, whether you're on Zoom or on YouTube. You can interact with me and I can see all your answers. The other is there's a button that if you're on Zoom, it says raise your hand. It says raise your hand. So let's practice that right now. Everybody find your raise the hand button and raise your hand so I can see that you know how to interact with me. If you're on YouTube, then just put in the comments section, raise your hand there. All right, good job, you guys. Way to find the raise your hand button. Good work. So now I'll lower all those hands. And now in the chat box or in the comments, I want you to answer this question. And everybody will have a different answer. So this is perfect. I want to hear your answer. And the question is, where do we learn, or what is it that teaches us? Okay? Where do you answer that question? Either way you like the question, either where do we learn, or what is it that teaches us? Everybody give me one answer in the chat or the comments section. Okay. We learn from our parents or from our life experiences. Our experiences teach us. Absolutely, Gina. We learn everywhere, right, Shauna? Yeah, Dawn says everywhere. Our environment, our friends, our mistakes, that's a good one, Lucinda. Our self-perception. Okay, give me a few more answers, you guys, from examples. I like that one, Jolene. What about social media? Whatever gets our attention, right, Shauna? Great answer. What about social media? Does social media teach us? Do politics teach us? Maybe teachers? We will hope that teachers teach us, right, Ronalee? Here's a few that oh, that's pretty dark. Let's make that lighter. How about social agendas or other kids? Do our phones teach us? Do you guys carry around a phone that gives you answers to things? Our neighbors? Leaders, yep. Wherever we focus our attention teaches us something, right, Alicia? Absolutely. So of all those things that teach us, what do you think has the greatest influence on us? And by influence, I mean, what has the most lasting impact? Where do we turn to? Where do we turn to when we need an answer, besides Google, right? When we need an answer, what do we think back on? What do we think back on? What has the greatest influence? And so let me go back up here to this one now. the reality is the things that have the earliest and most lasting impact on us are our parents. Our parents teach us more by their example and how they think and feel than anything else. In fact, I tell people this all the time. Your kids will learn more from how you think and feel about yourself than anything you ever say to them. Our just being has an influence on people around us. So I want to be able, my intention by the end of our time today is to be able to upgrade the influence that we have on our children. Because as parents, do we care about our kids? Who cares about their kids? Raise your hand if you care about your kids. Right? Okay. I guess what I should say is, let me lower these. Raise your hand if you don't care about your kids. I'm betting that if you're here on a webinar where we're going to talk about who's really teaching our kids, that you actually care about your kids. I'm going to make the assumption that everybody here is like-minded in that we care about the influence that's happening to our children. And just like my mother-in-law, we cannot protect people completely. We could try. Sometimes it can be tempting if we could just put them in a bubble so that nothing can influence them. Wouldn't that just be so nice if we could just bubble wrap them and nothing would ever get to them? And then we could have complete control over any influence that our children get. Well, we could, but then we wouldn't have very balanced children. So my intention is that we leave this webinar today with the ability to upgrade the influence that happens to our children so that our children will be able to make better decisions themselves. Would anybody else like that? If you're on the same page with me, if you would like to have a better influence for your children and you would like to leave being able to trust them better to make their own decisions, raise your hand for me, just so I can see if we're on the same page. Okay, fantastic. It looks like I am talking to the right people. All right, so we have to start with a couple of things. First is, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ann Washburn, and I am a mentor, a trainer, a body language expert. I'm also an engineer and a powerful parent. And I am a parent of 5 wonderful children, the youngest of which just got to adult age. So I am parenting 5 teenagers and early 20-somethings that are amazing. I love them all so much. And it would have been probably good had I gotten a picture of my whole family to put here, but I didn't. But this is my husband. This is the one that I met 30 years ago as his mom was dropping him off to college. I have given a TED Talk on body language. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've worked in flight simulation and explosives. And now I love engineering people. I love understanding how we think, how we feel, how we communicate, and how we upgrade ourselves. I've been working with a company called 3 Key Elements for the last 12 years, where our mission is to help people to be able to better themselves, to help the average everyday people have the support they need to be able to raise themselves up from wherever they are to where they want to be. That's what we're here for. And so that's who I am. Here are some of the awards and cool things that we've been recognized for over the years. Some of the most recent ones is I was certified as a mental wellness coach. I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. I've been on TV stations like Newsmax, ABC4. 3 Key Elements was recognized on the Inc. 500, Best of State Utah Genius Award. Cool stuff, right? But none of that matters as much to me as being a mom, of being an influence to my children. So you might have seen in the email that I sent out, that I talked about reptiles. That I was in a class that was advocating that parents need to have self-care. And they said this, they said, when we're triggered, we behave from our reptilian brain, but reptiles eat their young. And I love that, because it was like, oh my gosh, I need to make sure that I cannot be responding from my subconscious brain, because I might not behave the way I would want to behave. Has anybody, just, you don't have to raise your hand on this one, but can anybody relate to that? Have you ever been triggered by your children and your response is not the way you would have wanted it to be? I will raise my hand. You don't have to, but me and Lucinda will raise our hands on that one, right? Oh, and I just wish that I knew that I could rewind and redo it. Well, as I was making these slides, I also learned about another animal, because reptiles are kind of scary looking, right? They have quite the look to them. And here's one that's actually eating what looks like could be a baby snake. But I learned about the quokka. I don't even know how you say this. The quokka. Has anybody heard it? Has anybody seen the quokka before? These quokka are known as the most photogenic animal on the internet. And they're so adorable. Oh my goodness, look at these faces. They always look like they're smiling. So they're native to Australia, the quokka, and they're a marsupial, which means they have a pouch in the front where they carry their young, like kangaroos do. And quokka they're on the internet are known for this. Are you feeling like a bad parent? Well, quokkas toss their babies at predators so that they can escape. I was like, oh my goodness, this is, sometimes do you just feel like, you just feel like a quokka sometimes. So I had to search it for myself. I had to look it up, because there's actually, I know, right? Isn't this funny? There's actually a Mythbusters on quokkas. Do quokkas actually toss their babies at predators so they can escape? And the Mythbusters said, well, because Mythbusters goes better if they can say no. And they say, well, the key word there is at. They don't toss their babies at the predators, but according to natureaustralia.org, when threatened, quokka mothers will expel their joeys from their pouches, leaving them squealing on the ground so that they can escape. So it's true that, but apparently that's also true for most marcopods. Is that how you say it? Marsupials. That is one of their survival techniques, is they will leave their young so that they can escape and have another chance to make more babies. Well, humans, we have evolved that we choose that that's not the best course of action. Can we agree with that? That just leaving our kids behind is probably not the best for being able to give them the best upbringing. And so even though these are the cutest animals on the internet, we're not going to follow their example today. Instead, as parents, we are in it for the long game. My husband, I told him I was going to do a webinar today, and he said, really? So what is it that parents need to know? He likes to ask me really good questions like that. And I said, parents need to know that we're in it for the long game. Parenting does not end at age 18. It doesn't. Parenting and our influence goes on long after they are 18 years old. So we're in it for the long game. My dad is 80 years old, and I still look to him as an example. He is still parenting me. For his 80th birthday, he ran 80 flights of stairs. That's what he did for his birthday. Well, actually 81 flights, because he says that he's in his 81st year, so it's time to run 81 flights of stairs. So do I watch that example? Absolutely. Do I want to be like my dad and run 80 flights of stairs when I'm 80 years old? I may not want to run the 80 flights of stairs, but I want to be able to run the 80 flights of stairs. That part matters to me. So we need to know that we're in it for the long game. The other thing that parents truly need to know is that our kids need to feel our foundation. With all the barrage of information that comes in the world nowadays, you would think this represents all the information that's coming at our kids. You would think that a foundation would be easier to come by because we have all the information we need. But it's not true. It's actually not, because the information, there's so much conflicting information out there that foundations are harder to come by than they have ever been. It is harder for kids to build a foundation now than it has ever been in history. And so our kids need to feel our foundation so that they have a way they have an example of how to build their own foundation, because there's just too much coming at our children. They have so much. And so we as parents, we're in it for the long game, and we need to have a foundation that our kids can feel so that they have permission to build their own foundation. So we're going to start today with science class. All right. So because I am an engineer because I am an engineer, I do love science. So we're going to start with science this morning. And the science is going to be about how our brains, how we get our beginning programming. That's what I'll call it. So when we're born as babies, our emotions are intact and our intrinsic brain, or our right brain, is intact. So this means when we're first born, the only things that we have access to in our compared to what we will have later on, is the only way we have to communicate is through our emotions and through some very basic control of our body. And through those, we're trying to give ourselves our best chance at survival. And so our best chance at survival is if we can get our caregivers to care about us. If our caregivers care about us, we can survive long enough to be able to get the skills to take care of ourselves. Because humans are interesting. Because of the size of our brains, we're actually born before we're fully cooked. If we waited any longer, our brains would get damaged in the birth canal. So babies are actually born helpless because they're not fully cooked yet. We're not like a giraffe that within an hour of being born can run through the savannah following its mother. We need our parents to keep taking care of us. And we're not like kangaroos that we can just put them in a pouch and let them keep developing. We got to take care of them. So our instincts are to try to get our caregivers or our parents to care about us, to want to take care of us. And so part of that is we try to look cute, right? We try to look cute, like the little quokkas. If we can look cute, they'll take care of us. That's one way. But another way that we can get them to take care of us is if we match what we feel from our parents. So we're going to go deep really quick here. So our emotional state, we will send out signals to our parents that we need to be taken care of. So what can we do? We can cry. We can cry, and as we get a little bit older, we can start to match our parents' facial expressions. We can start to match their emotional responses. When in fact, in science, they found that the baby in the womb will respond to the mother's emotions. If the mom is scared, it changes the baby's heart rate. If the mom is sad, it changes the baby's, what's the word I'm looking for? The vitals. The vitals of the baby will change when the mother is sad. Or even the dad. It's been shown that the baby in the womb will respond to both of those. And so as a baby, as a newborn, a baby is trying to find their place in the world, their self-value, and it comes from how their parents and their caregivers respond to them. And so the baby sends out signals through crying, and if they're taken care of, they connect more with those parents. Does this make sense, what I'm talking about? And so then it even starts to extend to siblings, if there's other siblings or other children in the home. So as a baby, I'm connecting some puzzle pieces. And what I start to do is I start to match the programming of my parents. When my parents respond, my parents or my caregivers respond a certain way to certain situations, I mirror that as a baby, because the right side of our brain is good at mirroring, at sucking information directly into the subconscious. There's no choices that are happening. The choices don't happen in that subconscious part of the brain. Instead, I am behaving from the reptilian brain, to use our earlier language, and the programming. I'm behaving from the programming. Oh, come on, cooperate. The programming that I feel my parents have, or I feel my caregivers have. So as a baby, I am responding to how my parents think and feel about their world. And so as an oldest child, so I'm my parents' oldest child, my parents were raised in pretty hard situations. My dad grew up in foster care, and he aged out of not until he aged out, until he ran away from the system when he was 16 years old. And then he joined the military when he was not quite 18 years old. And so my dad was raised in that environment, and he was sent from home to Boys Ranch he had traumatic things happen to him. Like when he was a teenager, he was living at a boys' ranch in a dormitory that burnt down while he was asleep in it. And so he had to get out in this fire. And there's just lots of really traumatic experiences like that, going through long periods of time where the person he was living with wouldn't feed him, things like that. So now my dad has got some programs. My dad's got some programs about his world. And now he has his first child. And he doesn't really have a lot of training on how to train on what to do with this child. So he has certain emotional responses to this first child. So that's me. I'm the first guinea pig. And so I responded to his programs. And I have early memories of responding to my dad's programs. So, for example, when I was 2 years old, I cut my thumb off in a door. See how my thumb is shorter? This thumb is shorter. It was really great because it helped. This is how I keep track of which one's my right hand. I just touch the tops of my thumbs and I know which way right is, because I don't have a built-in compass for whatever reason. There's lots of theories on that, but I have a built-in direction of which way is right because I just touch the tops of my thumbs, right? Well, it was Thanksgiving Day, and I closed the door on my thumb, going to get my dad for Thanksgiving dinner. Well, needless to say, we interrupted Thanksgiving dinner because I had lost the tip of my thumb, and my dad rushed me to the hospital. Okay. And when we got to the hospital, I don't know why, but when I grew up in Rexburg, Idaho, the hospital had 3 flights of stairs to get to the front door of the hospital. They've since fixed that, because most of the time, if you are sick or injured, 3 flights of stairs is not the best obstacle to getting the help that you need. So now you enter at ground level, but then there were 3 flights of stairs. Well, my dad grabbed me and started running up the stairs to take me to the hospital. And I remember pounding on my dad's chest and telling him, "You have to put me down, Dad. I'm too heavy. You can't carry me. I'm too heavy." I'm 2 years old, you guys. I'm 2 years old. But I already had the programming that said, I'm too heavy for my dad. I'm too heavy for him. And there's lots of reasons for that programming that came from my mom and my dad. But that wasn't my experiences that had given me that. It was programming. So programming had gotten pulled directly into my subconscious, and I was behaving from my programming. Does this make sense, you guys? Raise your hand if you're following along with what I'm talking about here. Okay, cool. And so my programming, so let me ask it this way. How many of you have programs that you got from your parents? Anybody? Oh yeah, look, there's all the hands, right? We all have programming, no matter how old we are. You guys, I'm 55 years old, and I have a lot of programming that I get to work through from my own parents. And so as a child, this is why I have programming. It's to help me match my parents. If my programming matches my parents and my caregivers, they are more likely to take care of me because they feel the similarities. That's why we bond with, that's why we take on the programming. That's one of the reasons, is because then our parents feel connected to us. And so it's not until really the age of 8 before our executive functions of our left brain are online enough that we start learning from our own experiences. Up until the age of 8, we're learning by absorbing the programming of people around us. Then from the age of 8 on, now we're learning from our own experiences. Now we're learning. It doesn't mean it's not a hard line. I mean, I can have experiences that I learned from younger, but really the biggest part of learning from programming of others is happening 0 to 8 years old. From 8 upwards, now I'm learning more from my own experiences. And so now experiences start to shape who I am. My interactions with friends start to shape who I am. And all of these start to influence, these other influences start to come into place. My physical self, time, as we get older, extended family, spouse, kids, neighbors, all of these things are having an influence on us. But still, the most important influence that our children are going to have at any age is us. It's us. And there's three main areas of influence that we have. Look, I found another quokka. Isn't he cute? Oh my gosh. So we have 3 areas of influence. And there's more areas of influence, but for what we want to talk about today, there's 3 areas of influence. It's how we interact with people, mostly how we interact, how we think and feel about ourselves, and how do we grow. These are the things that we teach by example. These are not things that are taught to us in a textbook. These are things that are taught by example: interaction, self-perception, and growth. So so let's think of ourselves as the kid. How I think about myself is greatly influenced by how my parents think about themselves. So when I was pounding on my dad's chest to put me down, when I had a towel wrapped around my thumb that was turning red from all the blood, and I'm worried about him being able to carry me up the stairs, that came from my perceptions about me that I absorbed from my mom. My mom was always worried about her weight. She was always concerned. I don't remember a time that my mom wasn't on a diet. She was always on a diet, and she was always heavy. And so my perception about me at 2 years old was that I was too heavy. I wasn't a fat child, but my perceptions said I was too heavy, right? But that came from my parents' perception about them. It's actually proven in science now that it is locked into our DNA. Certain of our programs come in our DNA. And so if we're going back to what I was talking about here, because I am most connected to my parents, I also have the most, okay, I got to talk about it this way. Because I'm most connected to my children, they're most connected to me. I am the one that has the most influence on them being able to upgrade their programming. And that influence comes from me upgrading my programming. Have you ever said, do as I say and not as I do? Have you ever heard that saying? Well, it's a very wise one. I mean, the opposite of it is very wise, because if you try to tell people what to do and you don't set the new example, they won't actually get the message. They can't get the message because, let's see, I have a slide later on. Here it is. The lie that we live is, if I can't be, did I write this wrong? I can't be who I am, only who I should be. And I'm failing at it. Yeah, I wrote it right. I can't be who I am, only who I should be, and I'm failing at it. So I will help you be who you should be. Anybody ever done that? In other words, we try to be who we think we want to be, but we can't seem to figure it out. So now we're like, well, I'll just help my kids be who they should be. I'll give up on me and I'll try to take care of them instead. But the reality is, our kids will absorb how we perceive ourselves. Now, that's actually good news, you guys. If anybody was feeling like that's bad news, it's actually good news, because that means that I have more influence than I realize. I just need to step into it in the right way. So let's look at these 3 areas of influence. Oh, I have so much I want to teach you guys today. It's so exciting. So interaction, what does that include? That's things like confidence, kindness, asking good questions, taking turns, citizenship, compassion, meeting others where they're at, lifting others, networking, negotiation, making choices versus begrudging behavior, and gratitude. These are ways that we These are ways that we teach through example to interact. Gina, what can we do if our kids are all grown up? It's the same thing, Gina. It is the long game where it doesn't, our influence, and I'll show you this, Gina. I'll talk about this more, but we are definitely in it for the long game. Our influence doesn't end at the age of 18. It doesn't end. So you are in the right place. Hold on and keep listening, Gina, and I'll answer that question. So our second area of influence is our self-perception. This includes things like forgiveness of self and others, how to act as if, in other words, how to act as if I'm already a way I want to be, how to practice behaving in ways that are more positive. Needing love versus behaving loved, our worth or value, I'll add value right there. Our interaction with a higher power is part of self-perception. Our emotional management, how to bond, trust, emotional intelligence, alignment of thoughts, interrupting our programs that we got that are in our DNA, and facing our fears. These are all part of self-perception. And to Gina's point, do any of you, as you're listening to all of this, notice where you think your kids need help with certain areas? Because sometimes it's easier to notice it in our kids than it is in ourselves. And even easier if they are adult children. If they're adult children, it's even easier to notice that they are lacking in a certain area. The third area of influence is growth, or how to grow. So this includes things like where we put our attention, how to set goals, how to achieve goals, how to dream bigger, letting go, learning, structure, system, schedule, emotional focus, how to preview, pre-feel, and pre-say what we want. So this involves vision boards and declarations, alignment of thoughts. So these are areas that we have the greatest influence on our children of all ages. And our children are counting on us to upgrade us so that they can feel like they have permission to upgrade themselves. Because remember, our kids have absorbed our programming in order to feel the same as us. So we need to upgrade our programming so that they have permission to upgrade their programming. And this applies to all ages. This applies even if children are adopted. This applies if they are in the home or out of the home. It applies to all of that. And so there's lots of things I could teach you on this. In fact, as I was getting ready for this, I went and I pulled out the very first class I ever taught, that I ever created, was a class called Ninja Parenting. And here's the binder from that class that I taught. And it's so fun because look, here's my little people 12 years ago. This is what they looked like. Now they're all, so this was, my oldest was in high school. My oldest two were in high school, junior high. And then this little guy down here was in kindergarten. So he just graduated from high school. So 12 years later, this was a picture in the front of my Ninja Parenting class. Well, in my Ninja Parenting class, we taught these first 14 things here. And I added this addendum that if I were teaching the class now, these are the things that I would add to it. So the swimming pool, power stance, body language, 5 points of the star, love it or learn from it, what else could be true, love languages, ask better questions, the 30-year window. Should put a space on all of these, huh? So these are the principles that were taught in that class. And so today, I don't have time to teach you all of them, but I want to go through 3 of them. Would that be okay, you guys? Would you like to learn three powerful principles of how we can influence, how we can upgrade ourselves, and how we can influence our children? If you would like that, tell me in the chat. Because if not, I can change directions and we can talk about a different. Okay, so raise your hand if this is what you want to learn today. Yes? All right, fantastic. I love it. Okay. So all of these were, so I had to block this out because this was so long ago that on the front cover, I actually put my cell phone number so that all the participants in the class could just text me and ask me their questions. I thought that was great. That's how long ago this was. So all of these things, all of these principles right here are helping with these 3 areas of influence: interaction, self-perception, and growth. So who here feels like they could use better understanding of how to interact with other humans? You yourself, not your kids. Who here needs to know better how to interact with other people? Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to lower the hands. All right, who here needs help with your own self-perception? Who here needs, and I'll remind you, these are the things. Who here needs help with your own self-perception? Right? Okay. And then here was the interaction one that we need help with. And who here needs help with how to grow? Any of these areas? Anybody? All right, excellent. So those are skills that are lifelong growth skills. These are not you take 3 hours in college and you've got it. This is not you get a master's degree and you've got it. These are lifelong growth skills, lifelong. So our interactions, our self-perceptions, and how to grow, we got to work on these all the time. We've got to, it doesn't mean that we're chasing life and trying to get to a place where there's no more problems. Because it's a lie that we live, that we run as if there is some point in the future where we will have no more problems. Who's been guilty of this? Has anybody been trying to find that place in the future where you will have no more problems? Or am I the only one? I mean, I've been guilty of going to bed at night and thinking, oh, I just can't wait until I get to that place that there's no more problems. In fact, I remember once when I turned 40 years old, I was getting my hair done. And the girl that was doing my hair, it was just before my birthday. And I said, oh, I'm turning 40 this year. And I was lamenting it. And she goes, oh, I can't wait till I turn 40. And I was like, really? Why is that? And she goes, because when you turn 40, that's when you have it all together. That's when you have all your finances in order. That's when you know where you're going. That means that's when everything is okay in your life, is when you turn 40, right? Anybody here turned 40 and that's what happened, right? But we live this lie that there's some point in the future where we'll have no more problems. The reality is we are here to keep working on these 3 areas of influence throughout our whole life. I love it. Gina says, I just turned 60 and it still hasn't happened. Weird, right? Because there isn't this place. That's not what this planet's for. This planet isn't for a place that there's no more problems. But it is a place for where we get to grow and step into more of our influence. So in the Ninja Parenting class, this is a super powerful thing that this number 1, the swimming pool. So we're going to talk about number 1 and number 4, and then we're going to talk about number 13. And if we have time, we'll go through a couple more. So number 1, the swimming pool. So I told you guys, I put myself through college as a lifeguard. This is an actual picture of the college swimming pool that I lifeguarded at. I took this recently because my son just graduated from that same college. And so while I was up there at his graduation, I walked by the swimming pool and the door was open. And I went in and there was no water in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is perfect because it's a great illustration of the swimming pool principle that I created for the breakthrough coaching or for the ninja parenting class. So notice that in this, so usually it would be full of water, right? That you definitely don't want to jump in this pool with no water. But notice that a swimming pool has a shallow end, and then it has this gradual decline to a deep end. That's the part of the principle that we're looking at, is the shallow, the decline, and the deep end. All right, the shallow, the decline, and the deep end. So this principle comes from something that we taught our children when they were little. And don't worry, anybody that was going to say, wait, my kids aren't little, I can't. I love that. Joanne says, I was not together at 40 and let alone at 81. This is why I need your classes. Joanne, you are such a doll. I love you. So this was, and don't worry if you are like, my kids aren't little, I can't teach them this. That's okay. The principle is what matters. So listen here, okay? So we taught our kids, we said, hey kids, did you know that we started this way. We asked our kids, we sat them all down and they were little and we said, kids, how much do you think mom and dad know? And they're like, oh, mom and dad know everything. They know so much on a scale of 0 to 100. They know everything. And we said, well, you know what, kids? Did you know that there's going to come a day when you think your parents know nothing? That your parents are the dumbest people on the planet? And our kids are like, oh, no, you're so smart. There's no way we'll ever think that. And we said, yeah, there is. You will come to the point that you think we know nothing. But we want you to know that you'll spend some time down there believing that we know nothing. And then something will happen in your life and you'll start to think your parents knew something. And they're like, no, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. And we said, just remember this day that we told you there would come a day that you think we don't know anything. And they're like, okay, whatever. And we taught them that a few times, okay? And so we drew it out. We called it the swimming pool because we said, what happens is you start out thinking your parents know everything. And then as you get older, your parents seem to know less and less and less. And you seem to know more and more and more. So we could draw another line. They think they know more and more and more till they know everything and you know nothing. And then they reach a point where it's like, well, maybe I don't know as much as I think I do. And maybe mom and dad knew more than I thought. And so we drew it out as the swimming pool. So this is where, so do you guys see that? Where the principle comes from? It comes from the swimming pool shape of a swimming pool going down to a deep end. And so we taught them this. Well, lo and behold, our intention was, we said, look, on that day that you think that we don't know anything, I want you to remember that we told you this. I want you to remember that we told you this. And then say to yourself, well, if mom and dad knew this day would come, maybe they do know something, even though I think they know nothing. So that maybe they would only go down this low in the swimming pool instead of all the way down. Because some kids, they get to hear and they're like, not only do parents know nothing, they're really stupid and they start digging a hole as deep as they can get. But mom and dad know less than nothing, that they're in the negative numbers. Can anybody relate to this? Did you ever think this about your parents? Or did you ever see your kids think this about you? No, nobody can relate. Oh yeah. Okay. Me and Lucinda, we're on the same page today, right? Oh, and so here's what happened. So my daughter, Kaylee, that I showed you the picture of, my daughter, Kaylee, she came to us one day. Here's Kaylee. We have one daughter and 4 boys. And she said, you know what, mom and dad, I'm really mad at you. And I'm like, why is that? And she was about 17 years old. And she goes, because I was sitting in my room and I was really angry at you. And I was thinking how stupid you are and how dumb you are and how you know nothing. And then I remembered that you told me that that day would come. And so I was really angry because I was like, dang it, they were right. And so I decided maybe I should listen to you a little bit. And we asked her, well, when did that happen? And she goes, well, when I was about 13 years old. And she goes, because of that day, I've tried to leave a little bit of room in my head for what you're teaching me. So how many people wish they would have taught this to their kids when their kids were little? Right? I wished I would have taught it to my kids more, because we taught it to our older kids and then we didn't teach it to our younger kids so well, but we taught it to our older kids. But the reason this is powerful is this applies at any age. If you think your parents don't know anything, just remember that actually the reality is they might know something. They just have different experiences. They just have different experiences than you do. Don says, I did, but didn't know it until now. That's great, Don. So we use this to help us have more patience for people around us. This isn't just for our parents. If we can show our kids that we can have patience for people that seem like they're being stupid, then our kids get the idea that it's okay to value you. You teach them by example that if you value other people, even when they seem like they're stupid, they will turn around and feel like they have permission to value you more. And so this works for grandkids too. You can teach grandkids this, and you can teach yourself this. So I drew it out as a graph, right? How much kids think their parents know? From ages 0 to 8, it's 100%. And notice that it's not an accident that that's the same time frame that it takes to start getting our executive brain functions, or the left side of our brain, or the conscious mind online. It's the same time frame. I didn't know that then. This I've learned since. But when I first taught our kids this, and then between the ages of 8 and about 12 to 16, it just goes down, 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 till it reaches the bottom. But if you can let your bottom be not as deep in how you treat people around you. So, there's a saying that goes around that's like stupid people, and that people don't like stupid people. But we like to just categorize people that way, and it justifies our behavior. But what if instead you said, you know what? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're not, maybe they acting this way because something just happened in their life. If we can allow people more grace, our children feel that we offer people grace. And if we do that, and by that, you know what I mean, right? That we're offering people allowance for having an off day, then our kids will be more apt to allow people a bad day. We teach our kids tolerance by being more patient with people that are having a bad day. Our example is what our kids go to, even if they're not in the home anymore. Even if our example is what our kids go to if they don't know how to do something or how to react themselves yet, they go to our response. So I'm going to skip to this slide for a minute. Did you know that there's a lot of science that shows that trauma actually shows up in your DNA and is passed on to your children? Did you guys know that? Who knew this? Because when I first found the science, it surprised me. Did any of you guys already know this? Oh, okay, cool. So then, oh, Lee knew it, good. So trauma shows up in your DNA and it gets passed on. But that's not bad news, you guys. It's also good news because you can upgrade. You can upgrade you and your kids because they are still inside your influence. And the reason they're inside your influence is because their DNA is most in tune to your DNA. You share that DNA. You share the DNA. And so your children are going to benefit more from your changes because their DNA is in tune to your DNA. It's the same wavelength, if you will. And so if I upgrade me, it means that my DNA changes. So trauma shows up in your DNA, so does upgrades. So if you upgrade you, it shows up in your DNA, and their DNA vibrates at the same energy level, if you will, as your DNA. So that means that you upgrading you will help them upgrade them. So it can seem like bad news at first, but it's actually good news because now I can work on me and them at the same time. Does that make sense? And so understanding these concepts helps us to be able to help our kids, because just checking, anybody wish they could help their kids more? Just watching the hands. Anybody wish they could help their kids more? Oh, yeah, right? Yep, there's all the hands. So if you want to help your kids more, help you. Help you. So that brings me to the second one here that we want to talk about, the 5 points of the star. So the 5 points of the star, this is how we taught it to our children. We taught this. We said, a star, why is a star beautiful? Well, a star is beautiful because it's all symmetrical. It's all got these nice pointy shapes, and it looks very neat and put together. And I said, well, do you know, we taught our kids this. We said, did you know that people are like stars as well? Because they have physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual parts of them. It's like 5 points of a star. And we told them, we said, if you work only on your physical aspect, if you only are looking at how you look and how you perform, and you don't work on the spiritual aspect of you, then that point of your star gets really small. And what if you only work on your physical and your social? So only how you're looking to other people. Your emotional self might get stunted and your mental self might get stunted. Now, this doesn't, and maybe you ignore your emotions altogether. If any of you have listened to, I did a webinar last October, it's almost been a year now, called Emotional Coping Styles. I highly recommend you go listen to it. It's on YouTube. You can just type emotional coping styles. And in there, I talk about being able to help the emotional part of you, the emotional programming that we get as a child. So now we asked them, we said, is this a beautiful star? And they're like, well, no, it's not. So we asked them this. We said, what kind of people do you want to hang around with? Do you want to associate with people that have malformed stars? Or do you want to associate with people who have worked on all their points of the star? And they're like, oh, well, and we asked our kids, what kind of person do you want to marry? And they're like, well, somebody who has all 5 points of their star. And we said, well, then you need to work on all 5 points of your star. It's important that you're doing something every week for every area. It doesn't mean it has to be daily, but on a weekly basis, you want to make sure that there's something there, that you've got some physical activity. Teenagers or tweenagers have to be taught to shower, to groom, to wear clean clothes, to those kinds of things. Mental, we do that at school. We upgrade our mental. But at school, we don't always upgrade our questioning. We just upgrade our download of information. So mental doesn't get a full development at school. We have to be able to have critical thinking. We have to be able to think beyond what's right in front of us. My son went out on a date with a girl who is teaching junior high. And he asked her, he said, what do you find that kids are struggling with? And what's the hardest part about your job? And she said, and I love this answer, she said, the hardest thing is that kids nowadays don't want to wait for an answer. They want all answers right this second. And they won't work for an answer either. They want everything to be given to them. Because that's the way our world is. It's instant answers. If I want to know the temperature, I ask my phone. If I want to know the temperature in Montana, I ask my phone. If I want to know the temperature in Australia, my phone will tell me in a second. I can know my vital signs in a second on my watch. If I want to know my blood sugar level or my heart rate, or my pulse or my oxygen level, all of those are on my watch at a glance. There they are. Or my fitness level. I don't have to wait for any of it nowadays. But being able to wait and work for an answer strengthens that mental part of our star. One of the things we aren't taught in school is how to manage our emotions. That emotions aren't bad. Emotions don't make you bad. Did you guys know that? You aren't bad if you feel an emotion. You aren't. It's what you do with the emotion that's the problem. It's the emotions that you don't choose between that are a problem. If you let your emotions run you, then you are stunting that part of your star. Do you let your kids of all ages see you working on all 5 points of your star? If your kids don't see you working on them, they won't see it as important. If they don't see you working on it, then they're not going to come to you to ask how to do it. If they don't see you working on your 5 points of your star, then they're going to assume that it doesn't matter to you and they'll judge you. So your kids need to not just see that you're balanced, they need to see you caring about it and working on it. And so if you don't work, and physical includes your physical body and your physical surroundings. It includes both of those. And so if I don't work, if my kids don't see me working on my surroundings, then their star will struggle. If my kids don't see me working on my emotional management, their star will struggle, because we are connected at a DNA level. We're connected. And so our job is to encourage, but our bigger job is to set the example. Does that make sense, you guys? So who here has some work to do on the 5 points of your star? Who has one of your points that needs some attention? Anybody? Yeah, right? And so people in my mentoring, I have them do a weekly review. And part of their review is checking in with these kinds of things. Are you working on your physical self? You and your surroundings, because quick tangent, it's interesting to me that I look in the mirror and I assess myself, right? I look in the mirror. I also move around my house and I assess how old I feel. Okay. I assess how old I feel. I don't necessarily assign a number to it, but I assess it. I go, okay, my birthday is coming up in December, the week before Christmas. And I'm like, that's the only thing I hate about Christmas, is that I have to be a year older every year at Christmas. And I think, okay, I'm going to be 56 years old. And I'm like, that's so old. And I'm like, no, it's not. I don't feel old, because I go to my gym and I regularly I'm not the strongest at the gym, but I'm definitely not the weakest at the gym. And I'm not, well, I'm one of the older ones at the gym. I'm not the oldest, but I'm one of the older ones at the gym. But I still am able to lift weights I can compete pretty good. I can move around. So I assess myself that way. But then I'm listening. So I'm always working on my mental. I'm always working on my social. I'm always working on all of these. But I was at a class to work on my mental and my social. Okay. And at this class, they had a guest speaker, and it was a health class. And so, because I love learning about my metabolic health and how things work inside of my body, I love learning about that. And I'm at this class and they had a guest speaker, and the guest speaker was talking about, okay, a little background. It's a public health class, because I was curious what they're teaching in a public health level, right? And my husband listens in on this class because it's on Zoom, and he's like, why do you go to that class? What they're teaching is out of date. And I'm like, yeah, but I wanted to know what people are being taught. I wanted to know. Anyway, so they had this guest speaker there, and this guest speaker was like, oh yeah, my life is so much better because of what I've been learning here and what I've been putting into place. And I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, oh yeah, he's probably 70s, probably in his 70s. And all of a sudden he goes, yeah, and people at work are noticing too. And I'm like, at work? So you still go to work? I'm like, well, that's cool. I wonder where he goes to work when he's 70. And then he's like, and when I retire, and I'm like, wait, when you retire? So I'm listening to this and I'm like, how old is he? And turns out when he finally says, he's like 3 years younger than me. And I'm like, wait a second. He let himself go for so long that it made him look older. It made him look older. So the reason I tell you that is that when we work on these 5 points of the star, it actually changes what do we call it? It actually changes our realistic age. Your age, you have an age on a calendar, but you also have an age in how you behave. You have an age in how you feel and how you come across to other people. And you actually can influence that age. You can't change the age on the calendar because it's written on your birth certificate, but you can change the age that is being shown to people around you by how you work on these 5 points of the star. My dad is one of the reasons I do this. My dad didn't grow up in a great situation. My upbringing was far from perfect. But as an adult, my dad has greatly improved his work on his social, his spiritual, his physical, his mental, his emotional. So some of the spiritual includes how we perceive ourselves, those self-perception things that I was talking about earlier. He's been working on these. He didn't have skills here when I was growing up. He didn't. He had no ability at self-forgiveness. He didn't have a great relationship with his higher power. He didn't have good emotional intelligence or any of these things. He didn't have those, but as an adult, he's been working on them. And that example that has given has sparked almost a compelling in me to want to do the same thing. Now, would I have given him credit for it? Probably not, until I understood the connection that we have with our parents. My dad doing that has helped me be compelled almost to want to better me. So if you don't think you have an influence on your children because they're grown or they're out of the house, maybe they're grown and they're in the house, because we can have grown and in the house, grown and out of the house. We can have not grown and in the house and not grown and out of the house. We have all kinds of situations nowadays, right? But the reality is we have an influence. We have an influence. And so if you have a place on your star that needs work, then it's time to adjust. It's time to upgrade. Shauna says, my opinion, our brain still perceives ourselves as in our 20s. Time doesn't seem to change self-awareness. That's true. In other words, I think I'm still young. What I'm trying to help you, Shauna, with is the understanding you can actually help the outside of you match that inward feeling. And the way we do it is to do things that are helping with the 5 points of the star. Because I had that understanding when I was in my 20s. I remember being given this understanding. That's all I can call it, is I was given this gift of understanding that no matter how somebody looks on the outside, they don't feel old on the inside. And that's very true. But that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to be able to have a way to influence what it looks like on the outside. And so, like, I was on the internet the other day and I noticed somebody that I grew up just a block away from this girl. We were in the same class in school. And I saw a picture of her and how she had let herself go and all the surgery she was having to replace different joints on her body, and how and how bad she feels. Now, I'm not saying we don't have things happen to us, okay? Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, in my line of work, I have noticed that people mentally get to a place that they think they are powerless to affect what's going on around them. And the soapbox I'm on here is, I want you to know you are powerful. You have the ability to adjust, to be where you are and build from there. Like I talked about the foundations. One of the things that we talked about in my breakthrough coaching this week is how to choose into our foundation that we have, how to build that foundation and choose into it so that we can build on top of it. Most of us spend so much of our time begrudging and behaving from a place of I have no choice and I have to, or I'm supposed to. And when we behave from that place, it actually erodes our overall sense of self. And so it's important that we recognize this 5 points of the star is applicable to every age. So that includes however old you are. We have an influence, and it shows in if we are taking care of these 5 areas. So if I'm not taking care of my physical surroundings, or I'm not taking care of my physical body, does that mean I don't have health problems? Absolutely not. I see some of you on here I know have had some serious health problems, but that doesn't mean that you are powerless. It means that because I know, like Dawn, you've had some serious health problems and you've worked on yourself and you're in a much better place than you were a year ago. Right, Dawn? So I know that, in fact, people are like, wait, who's Dawn? So tell me in the chat, Dawn, are you in a better place than you were? Absolutely, right? So we need to, so that goes back to, let's see, on this one right here, on interaction, meeting others where they are. We also need to meet ourselves where we are. We meet ourselves where we are, we acknowledge it, and then we build on it, whatever it is. When I started CrossFit, I weighed 60 pounds more than I do right now. 60 pounds, you guys. And I walked into the gym and I met myself where I was at. I couldn't do a pull-up. I couldn't do a push-up. I couldn't do a squat. I couldn't do anything. But I met myself where I was at and I built from there. And that gives permission to the people around me to become better versions of themselves because we met ourselves where we were at and we worked up from there. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox here now. But it's hard for me it's hard for me as a body language expert to see people self-sabotage themselves by using the excuse that they are powerless, that things just keep happening to them. It starts with our mind and our emotion shift to become powerful. Powerless means victim. Powerless means other people have power to decide for me who I am and how I am. I want you to be powerful so that you are deciding who you are and how you are. That's what matters. Right? Shauna says, me too. Health is better now than a few months ago. We still have a choice. We still have an influence. We are not powerless. Thank you, Shauna. Now I want to cry because you guys, that's one of the curses of being a body language expert is I can see in people when they are shutting themselves down, and we don't have to. And our influence will spill over to our children. And so let me say it this way. Just like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Is this picture worth 1,000 words? This person went from this room to this room. Is that worth 1,000 words, you guys? That's amazing to be able to get from this to this. Anybody feel like this on any point of your star? Does any point of your star feel like this picture on the left? By show of hands, does anybody have one of these points of their star that feels like this? Right? Well, imagine what it would be like when it feels like this. Just like a picture is worth 1,000 words, our example is worth 1,000 lectures. You can teach your kids till you're blue in the face, and it will not have the influence on them that it will not have the influence on them that your example will. Does that make sense, you guys? I like that, Shauna. Pull my shoulders back. Take a deep breath, right? If you're having, oh, you can't see the pictures. Lee, are you on your phone? If you're on your phone, you might need to swipe to get to where the screen share is. But this is, when I put this up, you guys, this almost made me cry when I added this, because I'm like, just like a picture is worth 1,000 words, our example is worth 1,000 lectures. How many times have we gone into a lecture hoping that our kids would get the message? Anybody ever done that? Okay, let's ask it this way. Who has never given your kids a lecture hoping that they would get the message? Right? We've all done it. We all give our kids a lecture hoping they'll get the message. But the message comes from our example. Our example is worth 1,000 lectures. If you guys don't get anything else out of this webinar, please get this. Your example is worth 1,000 lectures, and it's never too late to improve your example. In fact, I want to write that. And it is never too late to improve your example. You guys, isn't that hopeful to think about that? It's never too late to improve your example. Right? You can give a lecture and know they will tune it out. Oh, well said, Shauna. You can give a lecture and know they will tune it out. They can't tune out your example. Okay, we're going to write that one too. Oh, that's so good. They can tune out a lecture. They can't tune out your example. That is exciting. Isn't that cool? All right, I'm going to put them right here. Whoops, not that one, this one. Okay. They can tune out a lecture. They can't tune out your example. And it's never too late. It's never too late to make it just a little smaller. It's never too late to improve your example. Okay. We'll go like that and like this. Okay. So just like the picture is worth 1,000 words, they can't tune out your example, and it's never too late to improve your example. You guys, that is hopeful. I wish I would have known this sooner. I wish I would have known this earlier. And you know what? I'm glad I know it right now. I'm glad I know it right now. So, upgrade you. What part of your star are you going to start working on? Tell me in the chat. What's your next focus in your star? Which one? Everybody pick one, because I know we all need to work on it. What's your next focus? Excellent. There's no wrong answer. It's not a right and a wrong. Okay, good job. Social, mental, social and spiritual, physical and spiritual, social, emotional, mental. Excellent, you guys. Yep, everybody pick one. My surroundings, good one. physical and spiritual, emotional. Excellent, you guys. Pick your influence and upgrade it. Pick your influence and upgrade it. Okay, so the way this plays out, when you understand this and actually take action, what will happen is things like, I told you about my daughter and how she embraced the swimming pool concept. Well, now she calls her dad and asks him for advice. She calls her dad and says, hey, can you help me with this thing in my life? And she does it on a regular basis. And of all my kids, she's been moving forward the fastest because she embraced it first. But you know what? My other kids are following suit because they're stepping into it too. Or you can be like I've had many people that I've worked with, and these are my favorite testimonials, is when their kids notice the changes. When their kids notice the changes. So like this one. The other day, my oldest boy asked me if me or Jacob ever made each other feel bad before, because he doesn't remember us ever not getting along. That's what happens, you guys. The kids notice the improvements. And the other thing is, little secret, and these can be adult children. They also forget. They lose some of the focus of the negative things from the past. Your improving now helps to erase or dim some of the past mistakes. So I love that. He doesn't remember us ever not getting along. Or this one right here. I'm a mom of 4, including 9-year-old triplets, and recently went back to work as a physician assistant. I've been in breakthrough coaching for over a year, and it's helped me more than any book, program, or therapist. Can you imagine having 9-year-old triplets and then a 4th child just a year older, and yet still being able to improve? Look at the benefit and the lasting ripples that will have. How about this one? My whole family dynamics have changed. I actually love being with my children and playing with them. I haven't been able to just play in so long. Anybody forget how to play? Anybody ever forget? Now we're playing every evening. It's miraculous. Or how about this one? I don't remember if I'm doing a testimonial about me or my mom, so I thought I'd do both. For my mom, I don't remember my mom being as happy, as at peace with herself and as at peace with other people as she is now. Can you imagine saying those kinds, having your kids say that about you? There's so much more room for love in my heart, and I'm able to share it. I've written love notes to 3 of my kids and a friend in the last few days. I've wanted to do that before, but I never had the right words come so easily. Or here's another one. This last 3 months have done so much for me. One of my favorites is not carrying the deep sadness I feel about my kids. I'm not daily weighed down by it anymore. Or, let's see, broke through 2+ years worth of stuck. So in this person, we were talking about how to not take things personal. If you guys read the emails, if you guys read the emails that I send out, they're little mentoring snapshots. I put mentoring principles in those emails. And one of them I put in there was how to be able to have conversations with your adult children and not take it personal. Because have you ever had a kid come to you and say, you know what, I'm having a problem in your life because I'm having a problem in my life because of what you did to me when I was younger? Anybody ever had that kind of conversation? And how do you not take it personal? And that's what I was helping this person with. Let's see, did I, like this one. I know you've already heard this, but my husband made a comment again today that he's so glad we both took your class. It changed our life. I can't remember the last time him and I had an argument. probably the last time I texted you about it. I don't just let him win all the time and me have to lose like I thought would happen if I was going to avoid conflict. Instead, I communicate more about what I want and need. So you guys upgrading your, and then this one is a picture testimonial to be able to go from this to this. Is that not a beautiful testimonial? That's probably one of my favorite testimonials right there, is that upgrade that happened right there. Because it starts on the inside, you guys. It starts on the inside. And if you don't start on the inside, it can't come out on the outside. Let me say that again. If you don't start on the inside, it can't come out and last on the outside. It can't. And so putting these principles into practice. So this was the lie that was going on that in some people's minds, is that the fuller I am, the more value I have. In other words, if I have more stuff, I have more value, or I can take care of more people. But that's not true. And when we can get past that lie, we can upgrade our surroundings. And then, okay, one more piece about this picture, which I love. Notice this. I showed these to my husband and he goes, "Oh, look, even the dog wants to be in the new room." It's so true. But even more importantly, if you look at this picture as you, if you upgrade you, your kids will want to be in your space. Your kids will want to have your influence. Your kids will want to be able to feel what you feel, and they will want to do the work to get there. So if you feel better, they will want to feel better. Sherry says, "I've gotten so caught up in the daily stressors of life and traumas in this unhealthy society that we're living in. I went out to have some fun and joy, and it literally felt wrong because I had gotten so out of practice, and just taking time to have some fun, uninterrupted joy." Yep, I love it. So true, Sherry. Since listening to and taking 3 key elements trainings, I have experienced so much change. My home is becoming in order and staying in order. That's awesome, Tammy. Your comment made me realize I must be making improvements on my inside for the evidence to be on the outside. Oh, well said, Shauna. Shauna says, "I'm noticing stuff like that. If my kids reject my values or choices, I have internalized it as rejecting me. I've let it affect my interactions and feelings." Yep, I need to do some house cleaning. Well said, Shauna. Well said. And so we live our life. And the interesting thing about it is we can't see evidence of our life until it happens. So it's kind of like we live our life looking in a rear view mirror to see what our life is like. So how is the life you see taking shape in your rear view mirror? Do you like what you're seeing? Because what you see started by seeing it here. We upgrade ourselves, we upgrade us, and then it shows up in the rest of our life. And so this is why I left engineering. This is why I left my career. And the first step I took was creating Ninja Parenting, because I realized even 12 years ago that our influence matters so much, you guys. It matters so much. And being able to pick what we want and upgrade ourselves to get there, that's what influences our kids. That's what teaches our kids. So some of these others are direct ones that teach our children how to interact with people. So or whatever, that's when we taught our kids that what to do when people make fun of them. This to fail fast, that's what we taught our kids, that in order to get better at something, you got to fail enough times. You want to ride a bike, you got to fall down a few times. So go fail faster so that you get the skills faster. This is a really powerful one. With people, fast is slow and slow is fast. Or in other words, how to want the bigger picture more than what you want right now. So for example, if I want the dishwasher emptied, I can get the dishwasher emptied by emptying it myself right now, and it will be emptied correctly. Or I can take the time to teach my kids to empty it. And in the long run, that'll be faster because now I don't have to empty it. But it'll be slower right now because I have to slow down so that I can get better footing for the future. Well, that's the case in all of these skills that we're working on. I have to slow down and work on me so that the interaction I have with my kids will be the kind that I want. And in the future, I will have the interaction that I want. My oldest child was really hard when he was younger because he like marched to a different drummer. He didn't do things the same. He wanted to take a little bit more time on things, and our world wants to go at a fast pace. And he didn't want to have to sit through school. He was a lot of introvert and a lot of struggle with social skills. And it was a lot of work to slow down and teach him. But you know what? As an adult, he is the most amazing adult. Holy cow, I love this kid. He notices people's emotions. He helps take care of people. His social skills are great. His interaction with the world is great. He's the one that just graduated from college in software engineering, and he has his first career job in software engineering. It's worth it to take the time to teach our kids. It's worth it to take the time to work on ourselves and the 5 points of our star. We sometimes use high-speed living to try to escape emotions. We use high-speed living to try to, but the emotions are attached to us. And so if I don't take the time, my whooshes are missing. There we go. No. Hang on. If I don't take the time now, then I'm going to be destined to have to take the time later. So right now is the most important time to work on you. Can you imagine what it's going to be like when you've upgraded you? What it's going to look like is your children will seek out your influence, no matter what age they are. It might look like they're going to want to talk till 2 a.m, like last night. Well, it was 1 o'clock in the morning last night. You'll have a kid that wants your help, wants your input. It might look like they call you on the phone and say, hey, you know what? I know that you've worked on this thing. Can you tell me how you did it? But it doesn't, when with adult kids, it doesn't happen overnight. It can, but don't get discouraged if it doesn't. When I started upgrading me, it took 2 years before my siblings started reaching out to me and saying, all right, I see you've made changes and I want to know what those changes are. I want to know what they are. We cannot solve our problems. This is one of my favorite Albert Einstein quotes. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. If you want more influence on your kids, to yourself and to them, to work on your example. So just remember, let's get this back here. Your kids, their DNA is most in tune to your changes. So who will notice your changes the most and benefit from them? Your family members. Your family members will notice and pay attention the most. Here we go. And our example is worth 1,000 lectures. It's worth 1,000 lectures. So this is all I do every day, you guys. I had to make a decision when I first became a body language expert. What would I use that superpower for? Would I use it to call people out? Would I use it to, the national news has tried to get me to just use it to analyze politicians. And after a few times of that, I had to step away because it didn't match my core value of my intention with my skills is to help people access more of their amazingness. And so what do? Every week at Breakthrough Coaching, every week I help people upgrade their perspectives. I want you to upgrade your perspective, because when you can see you differently, when you can see your kids differently of all ages, now you are powerful. You can take a new action. So like this last 2 weeks in Breakthrough Coaching, we've been talking about how to capture the negative comments that are so small and little that they like have a key to the front door, that they've been allowed to just walk right in. My daughter the other day, she came to the house and she rang the doorbell a whole bunch of times. And I'm like, why are you ringing the doorbell? Why don't you just come in? It's your house too. And she's like, I can come in, but the people that are with me need to ring the doorbell. And that got me thinking. And that's where I'm like, oh, what comments do I need to make sure they're using the doorbell, that they don't just walk right in? And did you know it's not enough to just have a declaration about what you're becoming? You actually have to have specific combat statements that will combat those little statements. They're never long, you guys. They're little. They're little and they're insidious. And they're the ones that shut you down and make you powerless. And so we went through, we spent an hour in class. We spent an hour in class where capturing those negative comments. So class is over Zoom. And so I helped them catch those negative comments and then apply an appropriate combat statement, emotion, and picture. So hear those words: statement, emotion, and picture. So I wish I had time to teach all of that to you right now. We should just stay on here for the next 3 hours. It would be fantastic. But when I can get a combat statement, a combat emotion, and a combat picture, it opens up my life to miracles. And what is a miracle? It's an unexpected good thing, an unexpected good thing. So if you want more miracles in your life, it's an equation. Capture those negative comments, apply an appropriate combat statement, emotion, and picture, so that you are ready for the new unexpected positives happening in your life. And so that's why I created Breakthrough Coaching. Breakthrough Coaching is there. It's a 14-week program. It's a 14 weeks, you guys, where every single week we're working together. I'm using my spidey senses to help you see where you're blocked, where you are giving away your power, because we have blind spots in the 5 points of our star. We have blind spots where we can't see that we are shrinking apart, or we're deforming part because we don't recognize the little things that are shutting me down. Oh, I love that, Lee. Lee says, I did Breakthrough Coaching 2 years ago, and I'm still applying that knowledge today. I'm signing up again so I can renew that knowledge. I love it so much. Breakthrough Coaching has helped retrain my brain and make life better and rewrite my story. I've improved in all 5 points because of Anne and my classmates' lessons, right? Isn't it powerful, Dawn, to be able to hear from other people's experiences? Because you guys, have you ever noticed you can read all the self-help books on the planet and you hear one person's example of how they implemented it, and you already understand better than all the self-help books. It's so true. And so breakthrough coaching, we're working together for 14 weeks. So if you want help getting from messy to mastery, that's really what we're working on. If you want help improving your example, because your example is worth 1,000 lectures. If you want help for your children, then you need help for you. And so what I've set up today is I've set up some times on my calendar where I can talk to you about breakthrough coaching and about what you're trying to achieve. What are you struggling with? What are the questions you have about your family and your influence? And so Adam in the chat here has put a link that you can, and I've put it here on the screen, where you can access my calendar and I will answer your questions and help you see if breakthrough coaching would be a wonderful place for you to be for 14 weeks. Because for 14 weeks, we are going to work on upgrading. We're going to use emotion and mind, body. We're going to use body, mind, and emotion science to break through our past programming. We're going to build belief in ourselves and our abilities. Because remember, if I believe in me, my kids will believe in themselves more. I can't make my kids believe in themselves. But if I help me believe in myself, my kids will believe in themselves. We're going to change behavior and results with education and application, and achieve confidence to respond instead of react. What do we work on? Great question. We work on interaction. All of these things. You should take a screenshot of those, because if you're struggling in any of those, you owe it to your family and your future self to put your time investment where it will improve these things. I was attending a financial webinar, and the teacher said, let's see if I can get the words. He said, what do you value most? That was his question. He goes, what do you value most? And then when everybody had answered it, he said, does your spending show that you value that? Does your spending show that you value that? And that was a really interesting question that he asked, because I thought about it. And spending means time and money, right? It's not just money, it's our time and our money. If you value what we've talked about today, is that where you put your investment? If they don't match, if you say, oh yes, I value working on myself, but then you don't spend time and money on working on yourself, then it's incongruent. And so that was a big eye opener for my brain to listen to this financial guru talk about that. Because it was a webinar where I wanted to learn about investments, but what did he start with? What do you value? And is that what you invest in? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need to do better. I need to do that better. So we work on these things. Take a screenshot of that. We work on these things. Take a screenshot of that. And we work on these things. All of those. So they all boil down to these three areas: interaction, self-perception, and growth. And if you need help in any of those, if you need work on any of those, you need to make it a priority. Joanne says, I've been in breakthrough coaching for a long time. I never come away empty-handed. It is amazing how Anne picks topics where the students are. It is where we are in the world. Hearing other stories helps you know others are going through what you're going through. Your questions are always answered. Oh, Joanne, I love that so much. I love that so much. So you guys, it's time. It's time. It's time. It's never too late and it's never too early. It's like they say, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. So are you going to plant the tree of who you are, or are you going to wait another 20 years? Let me help you. Let me help you fast forward. It doesn't have to take you as long as it took me, because you can build on what I've built on. So click this link. I dare you. I dare you to get on the phone and talk with me for a few minutes, you guys. I'm not scary. It will be me that calls you. And what's better is that when you click on this link, you can type this into your URL. You can click the link in the chat, or you can scan this QR code and it will bring up my calendar. So you'll click a date, a time, and then it's going to ask you questions. And those questions will mentor you even before we get on a phone call together. It's who I am, you guys. I can't let anybody I have the chance to interact with go away less than where they were. They've got to go away better. It's what I've dedicated my life to. And so get on a call with me. I dare you. Who's been on a call with me before? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've been on a phone call with me before. Are you glad you did it? Are you glad you did it? I don't know. Can you guys see when the hands go up? Maybe you can't. I'll tell you. I'm going to lower the hands. Somebody raise your hand if you were glad that you did that phone call. If you are super glad you did that phone call, raise your hand for me. All right. So see, all these hands are going up. I love it. I love it. One of the best decisions I ever made. Heck yeah, Dawn says. I love it. So I dare you, get on a phone call with me, because that's my intention of my life, is I want you to live a better version of you. That's what I want. And so I have a few time slots available. It's Thursday, so I think I have a few slots tomorrow and then a few next week. So grab one of those slots. And even if you're just thinking about it, get on there and answer the questions so that you can start mentoring. You're getting that mentoring that those questions are giving you, because that is a powerful principle back from my ninja parenting, is being able to ask better questions. Because when you can ask better questions, you get better answers. Anne is 100% present when you talk with her. I wish I could be around her more often. Oh, I love it. Need an assistant, Anne? Fantastic. Thanks for being here, you guys. So I have a gift for you. I have a gift for you for everybody who has stayed on the webinar today. Another gift, because getting to book a phone call and to be able to answer the questions from that phone call, that is also a gift. But I'm going to, just so you know, when you get on that phone call, I will answer your questions. I will ask you questions, and I will tell you about breakthrough coaching, because I have an amazing special offer for the first 5 people that choose into breakthrough coaching. The first 5 people, you're going to get the chance that if you sign up for breakthrough coaching, I am going to gift you 2 personal mentoring appointments with me. That's a set almost $1,700 value if you book those separately. I'm going to invest that in you, because that's how much I believe in your ability to have an influence on the people around you. I believe in that so much that those first 5 people, they will have the option that if they register for breakthrough coaching, I'll give them the option to have those 2 bonus appointments with me. 2 of them, you guys, 2 of them, because I want you to access more of your amazingness. In addition to that, everybody today, this link right here will give you access to 2 audio recordings. The Building a Mind of Steel and Perfection is a Direction. And maybe you already have those. If you do, share this link with somebody who doesn't have those, because this gift is for you. And if you already have one, you can re-gift it. This is re-giftable. Isn't that funny? Have you ever received a gift that just curious, how many have ever re-gifted a gift? Anybody? I'll admit it. Have you ever done that? Only me? Oh, okay. Phew, I was worried for a second. Because if I already had one and it was really nice, then I've re-gifted it to somebody else. Well, this gift is re-giftable. So if you, you type this in your URL, 3kegift.com/Ann. Adam, will you check that link and make sure I typed it correctly? If you already have this gift, share this link with somebody else. You get to gift it to someone else. I authorize it. Isn't that cool? You helped me with one thing that was stress inducing and I had no idea. What was it, Lucinda? I want to know. That's awesome. I hope you book a phone call with me, Lucinda. I would love to hear about that. So the last thing is, I want you to put in the chat, what are you going to do to take action on your point of the star that needs help? What action are you going to take? Because if you don't take action, knowledge has an expiration date. New knowledge without new action expires, and you'll have to relearn it. So what action are you going to take to improve your point of the star? Oh, cool, Lucinda. I can't wait to talk to you. That's fantastic. All right, you guys, I hope I get to talk to every one of you. Schedule time for it, Dawn. Fantastic. And I'm going to read every one of these chats. So please answer that question. If what you all told me what point of the star you need help on, tell me what you're going to do to work on it. If you want to have someone to cover your back, make the call. You will never regret it. It's a treat that you deserve. This is a treat to you that will last a lifetime. Aw, I love you, Joanne. Oh, I love it, Ronalee. That's fantastic. All right, you guys, everybody put your action step, because remember, new knowledge without new action expires. And I am on this planet, just so you know, because I believe in your amazingness. It's not an accident that we're on this webinar together today. It's not an accident. And if you've been in breakthrough coaching before, like Lee said, and you want to come back, reach out to me, book a call, and I'll help you get back into breakthrough coaching. I have a special offer for you as well. I love it. Excellent, you guys. Excellent. I put time. Excellent. Alicia's going to exercise. Awesome. I'm a big fan of exercise. I'm going to act because I know it sets an example to my adult kids and my grandkids. I'm going to declutter and clear a space to receive. Oh, you guys, I just got some chill bumps knowing that all these actions are going to happen today. That is so fantastic. You're so worth it, you guys. It matters. Your influence is still powerful on the planet. Your example matters. We're linking arms, we're setting examples together, and we get to help upgrade the whole planet because people around us feel it. And our DNA, the people that are related to us, will feel it the most. Because where's that one? Let me find that slide really quick. Because their DNA, I lost it. It's here. There it is. Because your DNA is most in tune to their DNA and the other way around. Yep, let's go upgrade this whole planet, you guys. Thank you for being here today. Please share, please access your gift or share your gift. You guys are fantastic. I love you so much. You have no idea how much you matter. You have no idea. Okay, one last little thing. Oh, okay, this wasn't on my schedule, but those of you that stayed, I'm just going to tell you this. as I was early on in my career of switching from being an engineer to a personal coach and a mentor and a body language expert, I had this very sacred spiritual experience where I was shown in my mind's eye all of the support that we have around us, and specifically all the support that I was being given. And I asked the question, because remember, better questions get better answers. And I asked the question, well, why? Why would I be given this support? Because it was early when I had just barely started the ninja parenting class. And the answer I was given was because of who you're teaching. And you guys, it was such a powerful feeling to know that the people I would teach are so important, that I would be given, little old me, that I came from such a broken background, such a little small influence, and to know that I was being given support because of who I was going to teach. And I just have that feeling today that you that I'm teaching today are what that experience was about, that you are those important people. You have no idea how much you matter and how much your example and your experiences matter. And I'm so blessed and proud to be on this planet at the same time as you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of making the world a better place by working on your example. Your example matters more than you possibly can imagine. And I'm so grateful that you are here being an example. Don't ever discount it, you guys. Your example matters. And I am so, so proud to be here with you. Thanks, you guys, for being you. Right? I've never told anybody about that, but I just feel like you guys are on here and you need to know that you matter. So thank you for being here. Register for a call, you guys. Register for a call. Let's talk. And let's upgrade. The planet's waiting for us. It's exciting. It's such a great day. Thank you for being here. Big hug, big love. And I'll talk to you soon.